Right, what have we got today? Boosh. It is a Nextorch. Now, if you remember, I can't remember whether I did a review or not, but I think I did or checked out a Nextool. I think it was a multi-tool, and I found that to be pretty well made. So happy to have a look at this. Nextorch contacted me. They said, TrailTrek, would you like to have a look at this? Do what you want. We're not going to edit it. We're not going to tell you what to say. We're not going to say this or say that. Just an honest review. That's what I've done. So they've sent me this for testing, which I've done. I've used it for almost 2 weeks, not a full 2 weeks. It's a couple of days off the 2 weeks. I've carried it nearly every day in jeans pockets, dress pants pockets, tactical jackets, all sorts of things. So I have put it through the ringer and we'll give you a review. Okay, so let's quickly look at the box and then we shall move on. So L10 Max, and they are claiming you will get 1,200 meters of throw, so total throw. That's how far you're going to get the light. In order to achieve that, rather than the traditional type of light, it is a LEP. So that stands for laser excited phosphor. So basically you're firing a laser at a phosphor layer, and then you're sending that, and you're using this lens to get that to fire out. But I'll go over that and I'll show you some comparisons. And it is USB charging. You can't see it on this picture. It's around the back, and they give you a cell because it runs on 21700s, the nice large cell, so you get a good capacity. There's some of the run times, but again, I will go through all of that. There's some of your little bump on the back there, and that's what their claims are. And nicely, I'm extremely impressed to see this, at least 5 years warranty. Thank you. Good. I like to see that, because when you're spending this much on a flashlight, you want to make sure it's still going to work. So I'll put this back in the box. This is how it came. So there's the box. Boosh, get rid of that. That's the light. And as you can see, it's pretty scuffed up because I have used it, you know, a hell of a lot. In fact, some of this might come off, yeah. Some of this is like where I've had it in my pocket next to other lights, but the actual anodization itself, especially on the high spots, has been great. Normally on the high spots it goes all silverized on the cheaper ones. This seems pretty decent. These scuff marks are predominantly where it's been against other aluminum and things like that, but it's been pretty decent. So we'll get rid of that. There's your instructions. I can't be bothered to read that, I never do. A couple of O-rings. That just prevents, you know, loss of waterproofing, but I'll go over that when I show you the sort of threaded bits. And here's their cables and a couple of silica gels. So Bush, get rid of that. So this is their cable, which I shall show you working in a moment. I tested it briefly and it did work, but I've been using my cable, a type A to C, and you can use a type C to C. And here's the lanyard which attaches the tail. I don't use these, but I know if you're working at height or for other reasons, you will want to do that. So there's your attachment point you see here near the thumb. So you would feed that through there, and it is a flat base, so you can tail stand it. It does tail stand. There you go. Okay, so let's just test this. This is your lanyard. So I'm pulling that with full force. Ow, ow, there you go, there's an indent. No issues with the quality of this. Quality's fine. The only thing which was a shame, here's your cinch. It's very light, look, it moves. I would have preferred to have seen that spring loaded, or at least tighter, because when the whole point of a cinch is you do that and you cinch it up, but if it then moves again, well, what's the point? So I'll have to knock a little bit off for that. But other than that, quality of this is really high, very good, and it's branded. Nice, well made. And it's sort of like it's sort of braided together, so it's very strong. Boof, get rid of that. Okay, so let's go over some of these specs whilst I show you this here. It's a relatively long light, but it has to be because of this LEP technology. So you're going to have a larger head, and in regards to that, look, as you can see, there is the lens there, and if you look all the way, I mean, you can't really see, but right down there is the gubbins of how this works, but I'll go over that. And like I say, it is a LEP, so you're basically firing a laser at a phosphor layer, and then that's outgoing. So it's not like a traditional laser. It's not like the laser pointers you get where you just get one tiny little thin beam of excited light particles coming out. It's much wider, but it still doesn't spread out. It does eventually, you know, it tapers, but it's exceptional on its throw. So they're claiming 1,200 meters. I'll show you some footage at the end of this where I tried different ranges, and that seems about right. I mean, I was really pushing it out there at the coast, and it was incredible. Very impressed with that. It's extremely specialized on throw. So this comes with a 21700 cell, and I'll show you that. It opens at the base here, so it's threaded, and you've got those two spare O-rings because I'll show you. Take the cell out there. See, you can O-ring that section there, just at the top there. In fact, we'll zoom in there. You see that there? That's your O-ring there. So sometimes that can get pushed down and then shredded when it gets on the threads. Okay, so zoom back out there. So you do get a replacement for that. Threads are nice and they are greased from the factory. Nice, had no issues with that. And down the bottom there, if I use a flashlight, there's one there. So I turn the thing, there you go. Let's get that on. So down the bottom there, if you can see, there is a little spring. It's hard to see. There you go. There's a spring down there and there's a spring on the bottom. So if you're thinking, well, hang on, this is a flat top. Does it take other tops? Well, we shall test that. So give me a few seconds. I do have a, in fact, it should be in there. There's one. So let's get a 21700 flat top. I think this just happens to be a Muller cell. Yeah, Muller cell. So 21700 as you can see. So let's put that in there. So flat top there, you see. So get that in. So let's see if this works on standard flat tops. Okay, so we'll turn it on. It does. So you can use a standard flat top, but don't worry, because I know with a lot of these ones with its button tops, that's fine, but then if you haven't got a button top, you're out of luck. Well, not the case here. Okay, so here's the cell that they give you. So the one that comes with it, like I say, it is button top and it's branded by them. I don't know who makes the actual cell underneath. There's the Nextorch cell. And it is a 21700, that's its size in millimeters. And there you go, it is a 4800 milliamp hours. Pretty decent, very nice. I had no problems with this. It charges nicely. It held its charge fine. I didn't have any issues on the couple of weeks, almost a couple of weeks that I've been testing this. There was no issues on grinding on the bottom. Sometimes it's some of these, you know, if they're sharpened or they're not perfectly pushed down, you can get grinding, which goes into the base here, which I don't like. But that's very superficial. That I can't even feel that with my finger. That's just superficial pushing of the metal there. And there's the bottom. No, again, no issues. Quality of workmanship is relatively high. Okay, so we'll get the cell in there. So it does come with USB charging, and I'll show you with their cable first. So it's Type C, and I had no problems with this flap. Flap was decent. Look, you can lift it with your thumb. You just do that, boom. And interestingly, instead of having like a post of rubber, it's got a flap of it. So I expect that to last longer than some of the little posts where they don't last. It's unfortunate. It's just one of those things. So this is nice and thick, and it's sort of like a gasket. If you can see on the side of that flap, it's got like a little line. Can you see that? It's kind of hard to see. And what happens is when you push that in, it really seals it when it's properly seated. So I like that. It never flapped out unless you push it really hard with your thumb and then lift it like that. Great, no problems with that. And there's your Type C. So we'll test some charging. So we'll just use the X-Star here, that'll do. So we'll go Type A, and then we'll go to Type C. And I know this works because I've tested it, but I just want to show you on camera. So we'll plug this in and the button should go red. There you go. So the button is red, that means it's charging. So if you ignore this figure, what it's doing is 5 volts and it's running at about 0.7 of an amp, 0.8 of an amp. So it's quite a quick charger for this battery size. I had no problems sitting around looking at clocks going, my God, you know, life's short, can we get on with this? It was decent enough, but it wasn't super high where you're thinking when it comes out like, you know, a Pop-Tart where it's red hot. No issues with that. Rapid charging. And the only problem is whilst it's charging, you can't use it. Just to prove that, I'm clicking and holding the button. That would normally actuate it on. You can't do that. I prefer a light that you can use whilst charging, so you could put this on its lowest setting and charge it at the same time. Although, yeah, albeit, yes, I understand that that's not what this light's for. It's not like something you would take camping. You know, I wouldn't hike with this because it's specific. It's so specialised as a thrower. I probably wouldn't use it in that manner, but I would have liked to have seen that. So we'll take that out and we'll test Type C to C. So that was their cable. That works. Here is your Type C to C. So plug that in, so Type C to Type C. Let's test that. And again, it'll go red, which it has. It is charging. So there you go, so 5 volts, and it's bumped up there to 0.7 of an amp. It'll probably jump up to 0.8. So they've done the extra work, so you can use Type C to Type C, which means that they have gone the extra mile in that it will make a negotiation. I mean, not all companies do that, which is a shame, but Nextool have made the effort, so well done. So it charges. Now in regards to this flap, again, no problems with water. They are rating this at 1 meters. I think what they mean is it's IPX7. So it's not IPX8 where you can put it into 2 meters of water for hours and hours, but you can certainly submerge this in water as long as that's properly done and you've got the O-ring seated correctly. They are saying that that will be okay. So excellent. So I've got no issues with that. If you were out in heavy rain, you would not have an issue with this. Brilliant. So that's great. Drop rating wise, it is only a 1 meter. So if you drop that 1 meters, they are saying that the light itself will survive. I would have preferred to have seen them higher, but I understand with the complicated sort of gubbins that's going on here, they probably can't manage that. Okay, I'll kind of forgo them on that. Okay, so let's go over the UI. So if you click, nothing happens, but if you click and hold, it turns on. Now it goes straight to its maximum. It would have been nice to have maybe a memory mode on this. It doesn't have that, but I'll just quickly go over before I show you the beam. I'll go over the UI. So it is high. Now that's 400 lumens, and on their cell, they're saying you'll get 4.5 hours out of that. So another click takes it to medium. So it drops significantly from the 400 lumens. It drops down to 100 lumens. And on their cell, they're saying you'll get 5.5 hours. And then you can drop it again to its lowest, that's 30. So 30 lumens, and they're saying you'll get 10 hours maximum out of their cell if you leave that running there. So pretty good. And then it does have like a strobe. Now the problem is, now there's the strobe, I'll cover that so it's not annoying people who are photosensitive. There's your strobe. Here's the issue. You can't quickly, immediately go to strobe. So then what's the point of having it? That would have been better off as an SOS or something, but okay, that's my first issue. The next issue is it hasn't got memory mode, so you're always going to go at the highest. Maybe that's what you're going to use this as, but it would have been nice to have that option. Okay, so let's look at the beam. Now before we do that, let me just explain something. So for example, here's your traditional type thrower, smooth reflector with your LED down the bottom there. So we'll turn it on. That was locked. So get that turned on. So what have we got here? We've got a spot which is pushing all the way out. It's reflected on that lovely smooth bowl, and it is focused out, and it's going to travel an immense distance with a smooth. I mean, obviously there's differences in the emitters, but we're just talking the manner of focusing here. And there's your spill directly from the LED. That's your peripheral light, which allows you to walk and things like that. But this is what we're concentrating on here. This is how you fire that out. Now that's how you get maximum distance. Okay, so now I'm just going through this rapidly. So then you've got an orange peel reflector. This just happens to be an XHP 70.2 emitter, but can you see how the reflector is not smooth? It's no longer smooth, and it's trying to give you a bit more of a transition. If you remember that harsh spill to spot, you had the spot, then a defining line, then spill. Now with this, if I turn it on properly, double click, can you see the difference? Yes, you've got that spot which is going to push, but the difference between those two lines is kind of blurred. There's something of a region where the two merge into each other. If I turn this up, it's going to become, you know, even if I come right close like that, you can see that there's a transition between the spot and the spill. You lose a bit of throw because of that, because it's less direct, but that's sometimes better at medium distances. And then one way to get it to still throw but be much better up close is to use a TIR, so total internal refraction. So that's one solid piece of plastic there. That's not a lens behind there. Sorry, like an aluminum reflector or anything. That is a one-piece lens there. So in that regards, if we turn that on, helps it engage the circuit. So again, so you've got this hot spot, but look at this. All of this, it's hard to see where that ends, isn't it? Whereas before, remember on the first one I showed you, there was a very distinct circle where there was a termination line. With this is very sort of, you know, it's very smooth, and you could hike with this. You could use this as your push up front, but then when you want to see where the hell your feet are going, so you don't go down a rabbit hole and twist an ankle, you can use this. So that's your TIR. So turn that off. So why is this different? This light is using laser, and it is exciting a phosphor layer. Therefore, it is extremely pinpoint in regards to the beam. So turn it on, I'll show you. So yes, you do get some peripheral. I mean, I'll put up a little video here where you can see there is some peripheral. in that if you're really close to the ground, you can see it. However, because of the super high contrast and the fact that you're going to bring this up to waist height, you can no longer see that. So you can't really use this for hiking. It's all about the push and it's all about the throw. So I'll get that video out the way there. Okay, so yes, you do have something of a peripheral, but it's not usable. And then you've got this beam. Now look on my hand there. Look how pinpoint that is. In fact, if I rotate this, watch, if I rotate this down the floor, you will see, you can see the beam there massively. Now, here's the first issue, which may or may not be an issue. You have one color here in the middle. This is what you're going to get. And then you have this massive tint shift to a yellow. You see that there? It almost looks like a burn mark, if you could imagine this was a piece of material which had been burned. But you're not going to see that, because right up close here you can see it. So if I make an issue of it and I do that, you can see that tint shift. But it's so thin that by the time you bring this away, so I'm pulling back, you can see it more there, but I'm pulling this back maybe half a meter, but by the time you're firing this way off in the distance, you can't see that, and this is what this light's for. So although on the camera you're probably thinking, well, what's this halo effect? That is a massive tint shift there, from this sort of color to like a yellowy. But like I say, once you pull back and you're in nature, you can no longer see that. So I just want to point out that is an artifact you will see, especially on this light. I can't compare it to other LEP lights because I don't own any. So turn that off. So in regards heat, even though I had that on maximum look, no issues. It's quite low lumen in totality. There is a little bit of heat there. I can tell that's been working, but look, you wouldn't do that with someone like an MSRD4. You know, you'd end up with burnt fingers. So heat, no problems. Step down, didn't notice any step down whatsoever. It just kept throwing and kept throwing. So what we want to do is let's quickly look at some side-by-side images. In fact, move that down a bit. So, right, let's bring up a photograph here. Okay, so here's some of the lights I tested against. Predominantly throwers and a traditional LED, not a LEP, which this light is. So let's just start in the middle and then we'll work our way around. So in the middle, there's the LEP, Nextorch L10 Max. Razor sharp, and that hotspot there is extremely bright. This wasn't the maximum range that I was testing at, and there'll be videos about that at the end, but I can tell you that in the middle there it was extremely bright. I could see everything, but just there, and as you can see, peripheral, virtually nothing. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. So top left, Ace Beam E70. So that's a small 21700. It's using the same cell. It's using an orange peel reflector. I showed you that just before there. Very, very bright. It's using an XHP 70.2, about 4,000, it's over 4,000 lumens, that one. So more lumens, much more spread. So you can hike by that, but you're not going to get the level of throw that you're going to get with the LEP light, the L10. So can you see how this is an extremely hard thing for me to test these side by side? Is a completely different technology. It would be like me saying, well, that car's better than a motorbike, or that motorbike's better than a car. Well, no, they're not. They're specialized. It's like comparing apples to oranges, is the old saying. It's extremely difficult. What I will say is, all of them, apart from the L10, have usable side peripheral vision, so you could hike and still get a bit of push, whereas the Nextorch is going to beat them all on throw. I'll tell you that now from what I've seen. Testing on the coast at extreme ranges, it beats them all. However, it's specialized at that. So unless you are hunting or maritime or looking down tunnels, you may want to look at something else. I just want to make that perfectly clear. But in regards to what it's designed to do and what it does exceptionally well. Very impressed. But like I say, I don't want to be unfair with this. I just want to show you what a traditional is in comparison to this. So we'll quickly go through them. So Astrolux FT02, that's using 4 50.2s with a smooth quad emitter. So very, very bright, exceptionally bright. It's 1100 lumens, that. But again, you're not going to get the throw that you'd get with the L10. Same with the FT03, that's an exceptional throw with a huge smooth reflector I showed you at the start of this video. But again, it's going to be beaten by the L10 Max. Convoy M21E, again, nice small compact light, good emitter, but again, it's going to be beaten. It's got a nice smooth transition there between the spot and the spill, even though you're losing peripheral because it's a dedicated thrower with a smooth reflector. And then we'll come to the Nextorch. You've got this, precision thin beam that's what it's designed to do, and that's what it does well. But again, as you can see, I wouldn't hike by that. I certainly wouldn't, but that's not what it's designed to do. All-Light M2T Warrior, getting on a bit now. Orange blue reflector, that's using an old Cree 30 point, I think it's the 35, the XHP 35. Not as bright as the others. Orange blue reflector, but certainly fine for hiking and medium range. The Brynite P18 Pro, nice thrower there, very rugged, tactical, but again, it's going to be beaten by the L10 Max on throw. Convoy M3, huge light, very, very big with a big cell, 26650, so big and heavy. Again, better up close, but it's going to be beaten by the L10. And even the Sofrin, which is using the SFT40, an exceptionally good emitter for a traditional LED emitter, I should say, under a TIR there. Really good, you get peripheral and throw. And it's a budget light because it's Sofrin. So really good, but again, it is going to be beaten by the Nextorch. So let's get rid of that photograph. Okay, that's gone. Right, so let's go through some good points and bad points. Like I say, it's very hard for me to say, well, that's better or that's better. Well, no, that's better at throwing. That's better at not just concentrating on throwing, but having a bit of other usable light. So to get put it this way, this is a specific tool, and for that it does an exceptional job. So in regards to the pros, I will say that USB charging, brilliant. It's type C to C, again, brilliant. Incredible throw, really is incredible. When you first use it, you think, my goodness, it's almost reaching the clouds. It's certain weather conditions. It's really, really good with that. Comes with a cell, your 21700. It's button top, but it will take flat top, so that's not really an issue. It's IPX7. I think that's enough for a flashlight like this. You're not going diving, that's fine. 1 meter drop rating though, which I would like to see a bit higher, but maybe that's because there's a lot of complicated gubbins going on inside there and they don't want that falling to bits. Fine, okay. It doesn't work whilst charging, but again, should I really knock that down? It's not that sort of light. You wouldn't go hiking or camping with this. You wouldn't be ceiling bouncing. It's not what it's designed for. So it's difficult for me to give this a mark. I've got no other LEP lights to compare it against, and I think it would be unfair if I was to compare it to a traditional, because no matter what I do, someone's going to complain in the comment section. If I say, well, that's a better thrower, they'll say, yeah, but that's better at it. It's difficult. They're totally different technologies. You can't compare a traditional LED to a LEP. They're doing totally different things technology-wise. So I'm going to have to give this a mark out of 10 as a LEP. I think that's the fairest thing, because anyone could say, well, this is better or that's better. Yeah, better at what though? So as a LEP, I mean, I'm knocked a tiny bit off because you can't use it whilst charging, and the price is very high. And only 1 meter drop rating. I would like to say a little bit higher. Everything else has been fine. I've enjoyed using it, but it's very specialized. So if you need a specialized ultimate thrower, and it has to be the LEP type, so laser excited phosphor, then it's really good. It's really good at that. I'm gonna have to give it. Let's give it an 8. There's little few things I would change, like I say, but I think that's a good mark. I've had no problems with it whatsoever. The paint anodization, is going fine. I've done plenty of footage so you can see what it looks like, and also if you go and have a look at my other video that I did, which was the first thoughts, I did like a real time without any cuts comparison against traditional lights, so you may want to have a look at that. That's just something you might want to do after this video, but there is more footage here, and I've done side by side. I've done the best I can to try and show you what this looks like as a thrower and how it's supposed to be used. So like I say, as a LEP, I'll give it an 8, but it's very specialized. Bear that in mind if you're going to spend this money. Okay, so 8, well done on a nice LEP light, and let's get out of here.